I'll help you down later. Okay. Hello, everybody. I hope that you hear me loud and well, and I hope that this is going to be the same. So, my name is Roberta Buiani, and I am one of the coordinators, artistic director, and co-director of the Ars Salon. I keep telling people that we are like a collective, so there's a bunch of people, actually, some of them are in the room now. And I am very happy to present you with, I think it's the first appointment of the Ars Salon for this season with Jonah Brucker-Cohen. But this later, first of all, I wanted to do two things. And one is, I want to, I know that some of you are not from here, so like I wanted to remind you that we are on a territory of that was formerly and still occupied by a number of indigenous people, the Huron-Wendat, the Mississauga, the Seneca, the Haudenosaunee, and they've been here for like over 15,000 years, and we have to honor this and give thanks. We are on a territory that is occupied by the university, and the university has not done anything to return anything to them. So this is something that we need to remember. We also need to, like, some of you are not from here, so like I want you to think of where you're coming from, and if there are some indigenous people in your space, and think about the history before you were there, especially if you're from North America. So this is my introduction, and I would like to introduce Nina, because this first meeting is also a Leonardo laser meeting. So the Ars Salon is a local collective that facilitates the intersection between art, science, and technology. But Leonardo Laser Network is a worldwide network.
Hello, everybody. Very welcome. I am also a guest. I'm a guest in Canada. I have been a citizen for decades, but I'm still a guest. And also, I'm a guest at the ancient territory of the indigenous people of this country. The Leonardo Arts and Science Evening Rendezvous is an international independent network. I have to emphasize the word independent, because for me that's one of the most important terms today. And it was established in 2008, but today we have Leonardo Laser events in 59 locations around the globe, which is quite something, I think. And what is really wonderful about the laser events, that if you are part of the network and an active part, then you have the opportunity maybe to co-organize a workshop for Maori children in New Zealand, or talk to graduate students in Bogota, or talk to those Russian artists and curators who left Russia and are now all over the world. So without going further about that, I just would like to also very much thank you, Roberta, my co-chair, who is equally at home researching some new interesting subject, publishing a book, and just today having an on-site workshop with Jonah. And thank you, Jonah, to come to Toronto. I have the privilege of admiring your creativity for several decades by now. But this just shows my old age. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nina. And do you need? Okay. So I want to, I told Jonah that, so I'm actually usually very informal with things, but this time I will do it right. And I want to introduce Jonah. So Jonah Brucker-Cohen has a PhD and is an artist and associate professor in the Department of Journalism and Media Studies at the Lehman College, which Yusuf was reminding me that he is in the Bronx because he's from there. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't want to put you in the spot, but I was totally ignorant about it. And he was a visiting artist at Cornell Tech and designer in residence at the New York Hall of Science. He received his PhD from Trinity College Dublin, and his work focused on deconstructive networks, and you will hear all about it today, with works that challenge and subvert accepted perception of network interaction. His artwork has been exhibited at venues such as San Francisco MOMA, the Canadian Museum of Contemporary Art, MOMA, ICA London, the Whitney Museum of American Art, and the Palais du Tokyo, Tate Museum, Ars Electronica, Transmediale, and many more. So his CV is impressive. His artworks, the Bumplist and America's Got No Talent, are in the permanent collection of the Whitney Museum of American Art. He has written for Wired, Make, Gizmodo, Neural, and more. His Scrapyard Challenge workshops have been held in over 15 countries in Europe, South America, North America, Asia, and Australia since 2003. Today, we had one of his such workshop with my students. They are first-year students at the University of Toronto in the new college, and they had a blast. And they were running around like crazy. Like we will have some footage with it, but it was so much fun to see them. And I was telling somebody, when they sit down, listen to a lecture, their brain is wired differently. And they get all bored and like they fall asleep, they're all floppy. And then when we do these kind of things, they just suddenly come alive and they become the most creative, critical people in this world. So thanks, Jonah, for coming and reliving, like it's like you're bringing them to life again because we need that. So thank you.
Thanks. Want me to speak through this or?
Oh, you have that.
I have my mic, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll take this off. Thank you guys for coming. Awesome to be here. It's good to be back in Canada. For those who don't know, I actually did my undergrad at McGill, so I have some Canadian connections, which is nice. And also family who's here, who live in Toronto. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, so, yeah, and thanks to Roberta and Nina for inviting me. It's been really good to be here. So today I'm going to kind of go through a whole line of different projects. This is a loop of a theme of an area of projects that I've been working on for over the last like 20 some odd years. It definitely dates me. Is it okay? Is it better? That's fine. I don't care. As long as you guys don't fall asleep. So. I'll try not to make you fall asleep. So we'll go through different themes, but also we'll kind of go through a little bit of like my process and what makes me tick as far as looking at how I make art and what inspires me to make art. So the topic of the talk is called Critical Network Experience. Some of the projects are not all about networks. I've been doing more work and research on environmental science, for instance, also on work related to human error and things like that. So I'll talk about those as we go through it. But first I want to talk about context. So this is an interesting context to me as a network context. It just shows how networks are changing public spaces. This is in China, where they've separated a walking lane into people who have their phones and who don't have their phone. So if you have your phone, you get a better, you don't get a better view. And if you don't have your phone, you can actually see some nature. Which made me think about like how these networks are infiltrating public spaces. And also way back in the early 2000s, I was at a conference and there was a multi-track conference, different rooms. We were kind of bored in the room we were in, so we started building a network system where we would actually start a Wi-Fi network called This Room is Boring and see if other people would join it, and then other people would make those same network names. So I've noticed this happening in public spaces. So here's an example. This is a guy who did not like his neighbors, or who thought his neighbors were stealing his internet. So he made his network name, Get Your Own Damn Internet. A few days later, they did, which I thought that was pretty cool. But it just shows you like we're having conversations over networks, which is very rare and very kind of bizarre to think about, but we're actually using these things not only to connect to things, but also having conversations. And then if you don't like your neighbors and you don't feel comfortable confronting them, you can start a network that looks like this and just see if they actually pay attention. But those kind of things are really interesting. We're having like these conversations about networks and public spaces, and I want to talk a bit about context and how networks are disrupting these spaces. Here's another kind of example. This is a quote from David Weinberger, who wrote a book called Too Big to Know. He says, knowledge in the internet age, aka network knowledge, is becoming more like what knowledge has been in the past few hundred years. For scientists, it's provisional. It's a hypothesis that is waiting to be disproved. Therefore, we kind of don't really have any definitive definitions of how we should behave on networks and how networks should exist. So we kind of make them up as we go, and then some of them get changed. So I wanted to show some examples of kind of funny things. This is an example of something at a restaurant that I saw where you put your phone on the phone trap, and everyone must put their phone down on the table. The first person to take their phone has to pay the bill of everyone who they're sitting with. And that's a really kind of innovative way to get networks out of the conversation, have people like not look at their phones while they're eating dinner. Another thing I thought was funny is like, I saw this picture and I was like, Zoom? Why do they need office buildings? Isn't their whole business context about not having offices? So another kind of funny thing where you take like, something that's meant to destroy a physical space and actually turn it into a physical space. So kind of silly things. So another kind of critical thing I saw on the train was this is about how we interpret networks and how we see each other on networks. So this is her on Instagram cooking and eating beautiful food, and then on Twitter sitting naked, sitting in a bed eating chicken. I just thought that shows you like Twitter means we can act like slobs. Maybe Instagram means we have to act pretty, or we have to act like we're trying to sell ourselves to the public. How do those networks make us feel? How do they make us, behave in general? And so today I'll be talking about some of my work related to dynamic data networks, things like when we infuse static identifiers in real-time data, we make real-time data a bit more about the spaces it occupies, and I'll talk about projects like that. Also repositioning mobile media, so when we deconstruct relationships formed by apps and phones, and how that changes the way that we perceive those things. Also locations, hacking. So there's a lot of work that's been done about kind of how location services also are about surveillance. And for me, it's more about like looking at location, seeing what kind of data can we put into location services that actually is meaningful to people and will actually make them change their behaviors a bit. So I did a project related to that. And then the last few projects are looking at human frailty, environmental design, and how those things can kind of help inform interface design. So it's a lot of different things, but I'll kind of move through them quickly so you get the context of this stuff. I wanted to start off on materializing network space. I'm going to take you back in time through some older projects of mine. This was the first project I ever made, right? Back, no, just kidding. In 1832. Samuel Morse invented the telegraph in the 1800s. It was this very archaic looking piece of metal that as you tap it, of course, it sends a signal across the ocean. To me, that's really interesting, just the fact that it's a switch, but it changed the world. And so a lot of the hardware behind the stuff that I build is a switch, actually. Not totally inspired by this, but it definitely means you can build a lot of meaning around something very simple, that kind of interaction. And I taught in the program that Neil Postman started at NYU back in the early 90s. When I was there, I was in there in the mid-2000s, and he wrote this book called Technopoly, The Surrender of Culture's Technology. He says, the telegraph removes space as an inevitable constraint on the movement of information, and for the first time, transportation and communication were disengaged from each other. And I thought about this more related to the fact that when we surf the web, when we click on a link, we just get transported right to that page immediately. And the whole difference there being like, you guys all had to travel to this location tonight, and you had a journey, right? You had this like somewhat meaningful, maybe not meaningful journey or to get here. And when we go online, that journey is gone. We don't have that anymore. It's really just instantaneous, and we want it to be instantaneous. We don't want that wait. So for me in my work, I'm like, how do we actually introduce this journey back into online communication systems to make it more human and to kind of change that a bit? So early project of mine was this one called Loading Please Wait. I did it in the 90s. It's basically a 2K website that just loads forever. never stops. Um, and it examines this impatience of online users. We have to sit there and wait, but maybe it'll never come. And do we even care at the end? It just keeps going. So it examines that impatience, and it focuses on how those advances in technology provoke negative reactions. We often get mad at the web, and we want to hit our computers because it's not loading fast enough. So that kind of frailty in humanity is really interesting to me. It also creates this feedback loop of patience and impatience. And then so I was like, how do we actually materialize this process, which is agonizing to some people? And so I built another project called Crank the Web, and it's this hand crank that you actually enter a website and you have to download the website by hand with the crank. So it forces you to become physical and say, like, I'm going to crank my email out in the morning. Not something that anybody would want to do, but brings it back. And this piece, I did it in the early 2000s. It's going to be shown at the end of January at a 30-year retrospective on browser art in Germany. So I'm really excited to get it back up and running after sitting in a closet for 20 years. But it's a kind of cool concept to do that. And so it emphasizes physical interaction in an increasingly automated world. Now we have things that do things for us. We have computers and reminders and all this stuff that just does it for us. We don't have to do it anymore. But what happens if you actually have to exert yourself now? And it takes like a 2,000-year-old technology like the crank and makes it more about today's technology, which is also interesting to me. And I would not want to be doing this every morning. This is the loudness of the crank in my office at the time. If you're cranking your email, you don't want to do that. But it's stressful, and crazy. So anyway, that's kind of what it sounded like. Yeah. That's a way to make all your neighbors go away. It's kind of like playing pickleball forever or something, with the noise. Another physical thing I did was looking at kind of what happens when you disrupt the presence of networks. So we visit websites all the time, but they don't react the same way physical buildings do. So what made me think about it is millions of people go to google.com every day. They type in a search and they hit the search button, right? If maybe a billion people did that in a few hours. If you did that to a physical door, a billion people use the physical door, would that doorknob fall off, right? Maybe. But the search engine button doesn't. So this is a project that I made called Alerting Infrastructure, and this is a jackhammer that's connected to the side of a building. And every time the website of the building gets a hit, the jackhammer starts destroying the physical building. It's like tearing it down. Basically, looking at how websites relate to their physical space that they represent. How could people who are visiting the website right now, the Fields Institute, know that we're here? How do we know that they're there? Could we actually connect to those people in real time? Is it possible to interact? And it adds consequences to visiting something like an online space, which you don't really think of. You do when you go to a physical space that you might cause damage, but never really a website. So here's a video. So this project also was a pretty old project, but it's a really interesting. I've probably gotten more requests to show this than any other project because I think people like destruction. And actually, I installed it here in Toronto in 2014 because that museum, the Contemporary Art Museum, was going to be destroyed, and they wanted me to destroy it further. So that's what it looks like. And then on the website, you get a hit counter that basically tells you how much damage you caused. And thanks for causing it. So I was just there hitting refresh. No. But it kind of also shows this idea that we're losing, our physical spaces are less important now. We have these websites, they represent us. Why do we need physical spaces? But no. So those are some of the physical things, and then this is the next version, which I haven't built, but maybe I'll make that one. And then I was like, how do I take it even further, right? This is the extreme version of the project. Maybe after a little bit, yeah, extreme. But I would never take it that far, I don't think, because it'd be a little too crazy. But apparently, the Tropicana Hotel in Vegas went down. Maybe I should have connected to that recently. So looking also at critical interfaces, I thought this was funny, right? The keyboard, according to Microsoft, Control, Alt, Delete, because those are the only things you need now on a Windows machine to get it up and running. Somebody made this, but I don't know who, but I think it's amazing. But it made me think of Donald Norman, who wrote this book in '91 called The Invisible Computer, where he says, once an infrastructure gets established, it's difficult to change, for they're deeply embedded into the culture of society, so ingrained in the ways that people have learned to live, work, play, that change can take place very slowly, sometimes taking decades, which is totally true when you look at anything from like the GUI of a computer, the graphical operating system, also the user interfaces, the web, anything that we do on phones, for instance. A lot of that stuff doesn't change. There's been like, multiple operating system upgrades over the years, but a lot of the stuff has stayed the same. So in 2003, I was asked by the Whitney Museum in New York to create a project for its art port. And so I came up with this project. It's called Bumplist, and it's an email community for the determined. So I was looking at social networks kind of before they were called social networks, and email lists were one of the first social networks. So this is an email list where it only supports 6 people, and when you join it, you bump the first person off. So to be part of it, you have to keep joining it and bumping people, right? So it becomes this kind of musical chairs meets email. And at its height of its popularity, I think it got up to about 500,000 total subscriptions, and it was written about in the New York Times and a few other sites where the bump rate became so fast and people were subscribing so fast it was a few seconds. So it looks at how rules were placed on accepted forms of discourse and how constraints and structures of a system could influence a community, because we don't see that very often, especially with social networks. We don't see ones that are finite. There's an artist that I really like in Illinois, Ben Grosser, who talks about how Facebook and Meta and those kind of companies are trying to just gain more and more views and more users, but they're not really limiting themselves in such a way that makes their content interesting. They're kind of just going for more. So how do we actually change those things? So this forces exclusivity and competition and changes those modes of communication. You can subscribe. If you go to bumplist.net, you can try it, see how long you last. Maybe it won't last that long. So also in social media, in 2012, I had another commission for the Whitney. This was with Catherine Moriwaki, who's a professor at Parsons. And we basically made this data visualization for Twitter called America's Got No Talent. And it's basically an American flag where all of the stripes are reality television shows, so like American Idol, all American ones. American Idol, America's Next Top Model. We had America's Most Wanted on there, I'm not sure why. And it ranked, it basically drew the stripes according to how many tweets that those shows got. So it would be like a meter to show which one got the most attention on social media, and then it data mined Twitter for the words America and no talent, and then it made new tweets with those words coming out and sent it out the project's account. So yeah, it's a mashup in a way of how to do that. This is what it looked like. It was installed at the Whitney for about 4 months at a show that was up in 2019, just before the pandemic. And it was just kind of an interesting example of kind of how we can play with things that we know a lot or we're very common with, like a flag, and how we can kind of change it to address things like media coverage and media attention. Okay, so now I'm going to move into the political and social displays types of projects. And some of these use machine learning, which you guys might know as AI. Other ones are kind of looking at also at just data mining practices. The first one is called Police State. And it was a commission that I did also back in the early 2000s for an artist group in New York that built a system called Carnivore, because after 9/11 in the US government was implementing data mining software that they were going to put on major ISPs to track potential terror threats after 9/11. So this artist group called Radical Software Group in New York designed their own Carnivore, and they made it public, and they're like, well, if they want to spy on us, we'll just spy on everybody, and then it becomes more meaningless. So they asked artists to come up with visualizations for the spy data that was coming out from this server software. So I did the first physical client, and it consisted of all these little remote control police cars that were looking, so that the client would look on the network for suspicious keywords, and it would send commands to these cars to drive around on like a 15-meter square platform in different patterns to kind of puppet the police on their own surveillance. And so it looks at how data can be reappropriated, how information can be represented in these spaces, and what strengthens relationship between data and its physical embodiment. So I'll show a quick video from that. This is also an older project, but it kind of fits into the theme of this. Okay. Let's see. See if the video plays sound, hopefully. Yeah. So the way that I set it up was that the cars were all listening on the same frequency. So they moved together as one unit. So they all kind of like, imagine like a swarm of bees, but they're all kind of like moving together, the same thing. They're all gonna be off by a little bit because they're hitting dust and cracks in the floor, but they moved around pretty much in unison until they ran out of batteries, just like regular police have to go get donuts, I guess. There's even a section in this video of them getting a donut break. You'll see about right here. Yeah. So this project was fun. I initially showed it in Rotterdam at the Dutch Electronic Arts Festival, and then since then I showed it in like 5 other countries, in Denmark, in Norway, and also in the US. And this is kind of what the software looked like at the time. It looks really old school right now, but it's the data mining stuff is all at the top right. And then this was the police codes all came from California police state codes. So this is a map of LA County, and this is some of the data that was jumble, and then you had these keywords, and then you had police codes. So it mapped the codes to the cars as direction patterns, and then sent to the cars as like a binary sequence. Yeah, so the goal of that was to be like, how could we puppet our own surveillance in a way of the cars? It's kind of funny. But you see it, like they're a little bit off. Some of them didn't move because they were, there they go. But they were stuck because of dust and physical stuff that doesn't exist in the virtual world. I was at the opening at that show. So I'll move through this. So then, also moving into this area of location services and police. This was a project that I made also back in 2017 at a hackathon where you're actually supposed to make things that are stupid that nobody wants, but I thought this would be something that maybe somebody would want. I'm not sure, but it's called Kill a Route, and it's basically a GPS navigation app where it directs you, it uses live crime data maps from the NYC Open Crime website, and it directs you on your route through the most dangerous parts of the city to get to your location. So it forces you to go through the parts where the crime level is the highest to get there, to kind of subvert this idea that these maps can't have anything social about them, right? So it converges live crime data with GPS mapping. It creates this active data layer on existing navigation architectures. And it imagines a future of this abundant data integration in our daily lives, which we're actually seeing. Now on a map, it's not only about what restaurants and sites are there. There's actually research being done on where the behaviors of the city are most aggressive, where the drivers are most aggressive, and how to avoid those. So here's a video that you might recognize some of the footage. It's loud. I did this with a few other people. So that was an open source project that was released on GitHub. So also in this area, I've been doing some work looking at machine learning and how sites like Google or companies like Google use machine learning to train behaviors on the public to figure out like if they're human. And you guys probably all know this. You guys have done the test where you have to like, are you a human, and click on the crosswalks or click on the lights. So in 2020 during the pandemic, it was clear that there was all of these protests happening in the US around Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd killing and all of these kind of serious events. And so I was looking at like, what does it take to train the public on to know like what a violent situation is, what police brutality is, and how we could actually play around with that. So this was a reCAPTCHA that makes you select squares that have police brutality in them, not anything else. And then when it, when it finds the right one, it takes you to a video game, which is a game that was made to train you how to be like a police officer, how to like stop people on the road, what to ask, what kind of behaviors to do, what not to do. That's called Police VR Enforcer 101, I think. And so this project really looks at how we could look at images like reCAPTCHA, or how we look at that software, how it trains the public on acceptable behavior. Some of the images in here were like comics of police and other things that were not only violence, but also just like popular culture metaphors of what police should be. It connects images and video game depictions and explores the relationship between police, violence, and virtual training of police officers. So I made a video about this. So I made this with Mark Ramos, who's an artist based in New York. And those are some clips from the game. So the game, you see, they like make people lie on the ground. They check their IDs. It's not exactly the picture-perfect police behavior we expect. And so, also playing on this, there's a theme in government that says that gun violence is caused by video games. And for me, I play a lot of video games, and I even did a workshop today about video games. And I was hoping to kind of look at that in a different way to show you that maybe that's not the case. Maybe you could use these things for good. So I picked up a Nintendo light gun. This is one of these, which is like the typical 80s light gun. And I built this project called Weapon of Protest back in 2019. And this is a light gun that when you shoot the trigger, it emails the National Rifle Association a protest email about gun violence and about promoting it. And so it's a classic Nintendo system hardware object hacked into a networked object. It sends this email protest. I actually looked on bulletin boards deep enough you can find the email address of the president of the NRA, which I didn't go that far because I didn't want to get people coming to my door, but it actually worked, and it actually worked as a networked object connected to Gmail and emailed them. So this examines the supposed relation between violent video games and mass shootings. It works as like a Python script connected to an Arduino that connects over the web, connects to Gmail, sends an email out as the trigger is pulled, and then sends you a receipt of all emails that were sent. Here's a video of this project. I like making videos of projects. I think it helps explain them. So Trump was president at the time, sorry about that.
This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace. It is too easy today for troubled youth to surround themselves.
Troubled youth. This is interesting.
Violent acts and mass shootings. If you've been following the news this week, then you might know there's 2 more mass shootings in the United States. 20 dead in El Paso, Texas, and 9 dead in Dayton, Ohio. And if you go back a few more days to July 28th, 3 more people were killed in California. And of course, this is only counting deaths.
Yeah, it's a crazy map from 2019.
Injuries and trauma for those that survive. The United States has a mass shootings problem that's only escalated to an insane level over the past 20 years. There's no denying that, no matter what your political allegiances are. And as a country, we've been pretty stagnant about it when it comes to finding a solution. Gun ownership, the right to bear arms, is something that's deeply ingrained in American culture. So much so that even suggesting a ban on firearms has become a
Yeah, the subject of the email is change the gun laws. This email is to protest the reaction.
That teaches young people to kill. And then just today, President Trump said we must stop the glorification of violence.
65 million Americans enjoy video games, and billions of people play video games worldwide. Yet other societies where video games are played as avidly do not contend with the tragic levels of violence that occur in the U.S.
Yeah, so that's a kind of a protest type project. Looks at this. So that kind of finishes that area of projects. Now I'm going to move into other areas that look at kind of mobile devices, environmental science, and error in our use of technology. So the first one looks at memory, right? So here's a question I ask my students. Maybe you guys can answer this. If I had deleted all the numbers and names on your address book on your phone, how many of those would you remember? Probably not many, right? 0. Our memories have gone like this. So this is a funny quote I saw too. I finally realized it. People are prisoners to their phones. That's why they're called cell phones. Totally makes sense to me. But here's a conversation that happened over, well, this is a quote, for instance. Before that, here's a quote from David Brooks, who wrote a really great article for the New York Times in 2007. He said, "I thought that the magic of the information age was that it allowed us to know more. But then I realized the magic of the information age was that it allows us to know less." And I thought this was really key because he says it provides us with external cognitive servants, silicon memory systems, that's the memory in your phone and your devices, collaborative filters, consume preference algorithms, and network knowledge, so we can burden these servants and liberate ourselves, meaning we don't have to hang on to this memory anymore. It's all in our photos, it's all in our phones, it's all in the cloud, and therefore we don't need it anymore. And so then this message trail came up, which I thought was funny. So this is a message that maybe some people have gotten. "Hey babe, who is this? Sorry, I lost all my contacts." Your boyfriend? Says Jake. Says Kevin. So that's a kind of funny example of stuff that's happening because we're losing our memories to all this stuff. So it made me think of how do we actually respond to this, and then I built this app project called Contact Rot that is it's a contact book for your phone, but over time, if you don't contact those people, the numbers start disappearing and the names start disappearing. So it slowly deletes people from your contact list you don't contact. Right? And there's a dark version and the light version. Just keep track of that stuff. So suddenly the names are kind of lose contact. So this also is something that happens on Facebook, where it's called like kind of like Facebook memory issues, where like you have so many friends on Facebook but no friends in real life, and you can't remember any of those people. So it looks at it's a live native book that gradually decays contracts and reminds us how these devices are replacing our memory with cloud storage. It's true, and numbers and names deteriorate and fade away if they're not contacted. And the contacts in this book only remain relevant in your life. They only remain there if they remain relevant. So you have to keep contacting them if you want to keep their address and their phones. Here's a video that we made for this.
In this world of ubiquitous memory, virtualization, and network media, we place trust in the cloud to keep our data safe and secure. Memory virtualization allows networked and therefore distributed servers to share a pool of memory to overcome our human physical memory limitations. But what happens when cloud memory becomes as fragile and aging as our own? Names, phone numbers, email addresses of our friends, family, and colleagues begin to disappear and ultimately rots from our memory.
So it's an app that you could download. Shows your contacts. It actually was, because Apple has restrictions on this, we could only make a copy of your contacts. We couldn't actually keep your physical contact. Too bad, but you get the point. It also tells you how many months ago you contacted that person, so you know that you might need to get back in contact with them. Yeah, so that's that project. Okay, so then I'll kind of follow up on that with another project that looks also at AI. It's a more recent project that I made called Clockwise. So this is a clock, just like sort of any other clock you normally would have, but this clock has a special thing to it. This clock will only tell you the time it was the last time you checked it. So it forces you to actually remember the time. So it's a web-based clock. It has face detection. It doesn't actually capture anyone's face. It just captures the points of your face. So it's just data, but it doesn't actually capture any pictures. But it will only give you the time it was, the last time. And it's inspired by the forgetting curve, which was this German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus came up with in the 1880s. And he found out that within an hour of learning new information, you forget about 50% of that information, which is true. And then people like tell you their names and you forget like a few minutes after that. And so I wanted to look at that and kind of see how, things like time, we tend to ask people for time all the time, but like, how is that playing with our memory? So it challenges our memory retention. It displays the time of our last glance. It compels us to reinforce our knowledge or seek the current time somewhere else. And here's a quick video I made of this project. So a clock that mimics human memory is more recent. And you guys can try it. It's on my website at clockwise.coinoperated.com. I think it should work on phones, possibly. I'm not sure. People are forgetting stuff. So it snaps their photo, but not really a photo, just the contours of your face. And then it flips over like a old style flip clock to give you that time. So then moving on to there, I was really interested in like kind of playing with ideas of environmental science and how we can kind of think of like, there's so many reasons why we want to save the planet from being overpolluted, and that's really great. But I think that we're in the midst of climate change. I was seen by this huge hurricane that just hit Florida. But there's a whole like opportunity there as well to kind of reverse engineer the way that we look at climate change and kind of create new approaches for dealing with it through an artistic approach. This is a funny picture. So this is like the horseless carriage, right? But maybe reminiscing back to the horse, wanting to put a horse on a carriage that doesn't need one. So in this book, Reverse Engineering, Secrets of Reverse Engineering by Tchaikovsky and Elam, they said it's defined as the process of extracting the knowledge or design blueprints from anything man-made, and claim that the concept dates back to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, right in the 1760s. And they say that the difference between reverse engineering and conventional research is that with reverse engineering, the artifact being investigated is man-made, unlike scientific research where it's natural, right? So in order to reverse engineer something, it has to be made by us, and then we have to kind of take it backwards. So I've been working on these projects looking at climate change and inverting that process. So the first one is called loss depletion. And this is a carbon dioxide emitter, but it's powered by solar energy. So it uses clean energy to create pollution, basically. So it's the opposite of what you would think these things normally do. And so this examines the repercussions of trying to stem rapid climate change. And there's just a lot of like interesting research done that shows that measures to clean up systems actually cause more pollution than they should, and they're supposed to clean up. So it inverts our relationship to green energy solutions as always being clean. And this is a quick video of this. It existed as a pump that you would find in like an aquarium to like pump out, give carbon dioxide to fish, but then it uses solar energy to cause that to go. So this is like just showing different examples of all the different types of pollution that come from our daily use, from landfills to waste production, and that we don't really have a good grip on what, how to use solar and to make it actually power the planet the way it should. Oh, sorry about that. I can show that later. But anyway, you get the idea. So it's basically like using this solar power to change it. Also looking at canceling out health benefits, there was a study done that looked at runners and cities and city planning, and it showed that a lot of cities put their running routes next to roads, right? Which is totally counterintuitive, right? Because you're running and you're suddenly breathing in all the pollution of the road. So over the course of a year, one vehicle on the road is capable of emitting about 4.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide, while every gallon of gasoline that vehicle consumes creates about 8,887 grams of CO2. And so there was a study done in 2018 by the US Institute of Health, NIH, about of 135 people that shows that they had these like negative cardiovascular responses to healthy activities because they were doing these activities on polluted roads, which is kind of crazy because all of those paths were on roads that they studied. So why is this happening? How can we actually think of ways of curbing this? And so I came up with another project looking at this. It's called Clean Smog. And it's basically a combustion engine that's powered by gasoline that uses its own power to power an air purifier. So it actually causes pollution, which then cleans its own pollution. So it comments on how these sort of anti-pollution methods fail because technology used to bring them to market causes more pollution than their intended goal. Here's a quick video of this little engine. This thing is really small, but it basically kind of looks like this. It's like this big engine connected to a air purifier, and then it kind of diminishes, cleans its own air. This was done last year. Yeah. And then pretty much done after this, a couple more things. This is a small panhead combustion engine that will power a 12-volt battery power supply using standard gasoline. And then this is the air purifier that it powered. Ooh. Kind of crazy. Yeah, that's true. You can tweak it a bit, but that's the slow motion version. I think it's kind of cool aesthetic. All right, so then moving on to the last area, I did a lot of work in this area of like human-centered interfaces, and I see like, we use technology all the time, but we make so many mistakes with technology, and that technology is a bit dehumanizing because it turns us into like kind of cluttery people. So I built this whole series of work called Human Error that looks at all the errors that we do with technology and how we could use that information about how we make those errors and put it back into the technology. So there's a bunch of different ones. I'll start off over here. The top left is called password. When you enter a password, it will always change your password back to the word password, for instance, to kind of make that error happen. The bottom left is called crowded strip. It's a power strip that you can't plug anything into because it has too many holes and they're all in the wrong places. This is a power switch over here called just on and off, and it's basically a switch that will only turn something off. It will never turn anything on. To make that mistake that we can't turn things on. And then this is a spell check engine that will turn all of your text into leet speak. So like, this is like Twitter abbreviations, no matter what you do as far as spell checking. And then the top right is a phone app where it removes the numbers and you have to dial with the letters only of the the phone. And then a couple different projects here. I'm going to skip this one and go to a different one because I think they're kind of crazy. So yeah. Okay, so this one is called Paper Jam, and it's a printer that's modified to cause a paper jam every few prints. So it forces you to kind of add that error to itself, even though you might not have caused it. It looks at recycling levels. At the time in the US, there were only about 21% enough office. There was that much office paper that was discarded each year that you could build a wall from Seattle to New York annually. It's kind of scary. And it highlights this environmental impact of sheets of office paper wasted. So it kind of looked like this. Paper jammed in the printer, right? So you open your printer. But it's modified to do this on purpose. Makes you not want to use paper anymore. But a lot of people have trouble with printers. They follow directions wrong. They don't put paper in the right way. They'll go through that fast anyway. But that's kind of an error that I see a lot. Then the last project I'll talk about is a project that I did an installation for at the New York Hall of Science. This was up for about 4 months at the New York Hall of Science, and it was really looking at how we play with words and thinking about how we can like reposition and remix words. So it was called Wordplay, and it was an installation where you basically can kind of remix famous quotes from, at the time it was in the Science Center, so I wanted to remix quotes from scientists. So it was commissioned by the New York Hall of Science. That was when I was a designer in residency there from 2022 to 2023. It reimagines, the game of Mad Libs, where it asks you for a word type, like an adjective, a noun, a verb, and you have to give someone that word. So it allows you to do that on the fly using these cards. And they're all like 400 RFID cards that all have words scanned onto them, and allows the public to kind of remix these quotes and facts. Here's a quick video of this project. So this was set up there in the museum. It had about, over the course of the 3 months or 4 months, it was up at about like 5,000 interactions. Everything was written out live to the web as well as to Twitter. Then you'd pick up from these bins the cards you want when it would prompt you, and then you'd enter them into the system, and it could remix all the stuff. So it was a kind of cool way of getting the public to play with words and word designing and reimagining phrases. And so after you picked all your words, it would then give you the completed quote at the end of the day, and then print it out to Twitter and to the website, and also print it out on a piece of paper that you could take home with you. Yeah. And then that's kind of what it looked like. So this is a quote from Marie Curie that someone remixed. Kind of funny. It's their own cactus, yeah. And then it would show the original as well. But this was kind of just a way of getting involved with the collection, the science behind the museum. And then the last thing I'll talk about is Scrapyard Challenge. So I did a workshop today where we were doing arcade controllers, redesigning them from junk. These are some pictures of past workshops I've been doing over the last 20 years, where we take junk and we turn it into new interfaces. I started with Catherine Moriwaki back in Dublin in 2003, and we've been now in about 17 countries. The new version of this workshop is building arcade controllers. So we had them build kind of classic arcade controllers. This is a video, not from today's workshop. This is from another one I did at NYU in June. But it's a really fun workshop where you just get to get hands-on with technology. I really like the idea of working with their hands and actually building things. Roberta was saying that finally her students were off Instagram and finally creating stuff with their hands. And so this is just a good way to get people motivated together to work as a team, and also create new interfaces for games and things that are more in the pop culture area. So this was the Simpsons game that they made a controller out of an old toy with, which was pretty funny. And then there's some other funny ones as we go. Yeah, this is another interface for it. But the cool thing is you can kind of swap them back and forth. And this was like using a giant bowling ball as a controller, which I liked. So you roll the ball around and it drives the cars around different directions. And that was Mario Kart. We had a lot of projects today playing this game. I think this game is super popular as far as an interface design game. And it's just about kind of interface design, how you can like create interfaces out of basically anything and try to kind of challenge it. This one was really cool. They used the game Operation to control Street Fighter. So you're like tweaking the body of this thing and you're like causing it to play Street Fighter, which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah, and then Mario playing with a steering wheel to control Mario, yeah, kind of crazy. So anyway, yeah. So you get the idea. So the last kind of things is kind of funny. Like now you can do an internet cafe on a simulator. I mean, I guess you can do everything on a simulator. But looking at kind of all of these projects and as a guide to kind of how you would experience them, these are sort of the steps I look at as far as like how I tackle new projects and also just thoughts about them. So thinking about how to subvert ubiquity in networks, make things more obvious to people, to provoke new interfaces, deconstruct those interfaces, to challenge new relationships, replace context, so redefine context, challenges those experiences. That has a lot to do with some of the police projects. Take standards that people understand, rules of hardware, software, and network engagement, and subvert it, make it do things it wasn't meant to do. That's also a really kind of interesting area. Mistrust the cloud. So, you know, try to regain your personability back from digital tech. Don't let the cloud take away our memory. Don't let the cloud kind of manage our lives. And then disfigure connected objects, right? So think about the social interfaces of the Internet of Things. There's a lot of objects now that are connected to the internet. Some of those have social capabilities, but how could you actually change those things and modify them in such a way that they actually provoke relationships? Yeah, so I think that's it. That was long, sorry about that. But if you guys are open for questions. And then at the end, actually, if you stick around after this, I have a live demo I can do where people can interface with their phones. I wanted to try that. So yeah, so get out your phones. But we can do that. Want to do that now or you want to do that after?
Maybe I'm going to turn the light on.
Yeah. Oh, it could be there with it.
It's either on and off.
I can take questions and I can leave this up in the background too.
So we can, thank you.
Yeah, cool. And there are a lot more projects I didn't talk about on my website if you go to Coin Operated.
Do you want to do the interaction, the demo?
Oh, the demo is this. So I'll show you the demo. Oh, Chrome. I got to get Chrome running. So this is about your critical ideas. So use your phone and you send a text message to that number, or you can use WhatsApp and you can send a text message to that. So if you don't want to pay for text messages. And it should bring up everyone's messages around. So my question to you guys is like, I brought all these ideas out, but what about you guys? Do you have any critical thoughts, ideas? Oh, it's not showing. Oh, you know why? Because I have to share. Hold on. Sorry. That's why. There it is. All right, cool. It's kind of looks super slow on Zoom. It's running on Zoom, that's why it's slow. But yeah, you send a message to that number, and it should show your messages there. I'll set one off to start. But this is another project of mine that I didn't talk about, but it's a multi-user texting application that's meant for public spaces. So anyone can send a message to it, and it will show up. Let's see if it works. It might just be slow on Zoom. It's not really working. There's one. Saying hi, everybody. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Some people are there. And yeah, you don't have to download an app. I want to download the internet. That's good. Yeah, it's much faster not being on Zoom. Zoom slows everything down, but yeah, question mark. Yeah. So this is a project that I've been started initially as like a collaboration with some artists when I was living in Ireland, and then I kind of turned it into a product that didn't work, and now it's kind of more as a art piece that kind of I let go on public spaces to get people's thoughts and about things. And it's running in a 3D environment, so you can kind of drag these blocks around and move them different places. Confusing. Anyway. Cool. Oh, hey, welcome. Trains. My name, I like my name, Jeff, whoever that was. Yeah. So yeah, happy to answer questions if anybody has any too. Yeah.
I think we need.
Oh, you need the mic?
If we wanted to record it.
Yeah, that's fine. But we can leave this running if you guys want to contribute to it. Woo!
Yeah, thanks so much for the great presentation. I wanted to ask about technical specifications because I saw that you work mostly with iOS and you develop applications for iOS.
Okay.
Can you elaborate on a little bit more, because I mean iOS is not
it's not the main
or the friendliest platform for that.
That's probably true. Yeah, I just use a lot of those products, so it's probably more what I'm comfortable with. Yeah, but I actually one of the projects worked on both the contact rod that worked for Android too, but it didn't make it to any of the stores. I think it got rejected before it got too close to the stores. But yeah, those are areas that I'm definitely interested in multi-platforms for sure. But yeah.
But you also submitted then to the Apple Store.
Yeah.
And then
it didn't get through because. But they didn't say it wasn't in the store because they didn't like it. They just said it didn't have enough features, and I was like, that's the point of the project. It doesn't have features. But I don't know. I was like, after that, I was like, I'm gonna give it up with the store. Yeah. Oh yeah. Anyone else? Yeah. Yeah, this is so choppy right now. My computer looks fluid. This is super choppy on Zoom. Yeah.
Hi, so I missed the beginning of your talk.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned your students at some point, so I want to ask, where do you teach and what do you teach?
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah. I teach in New York City at the City University of New York at Lehman College, which was the original site of the UN before they built the big UN building. And it's up in the Bronx. So it's probably one of the biggest campuses of the City University of New York. We've got like a full-size football field on our campus, which is weird in New York City to have that size of a campus. But it's an interesting place to be for sure. And I teach in the journalism and media studies department there. Yeah. Cool. Clown's nose. Oh yeah, it works with emojis too. Cool. Any other comments, questions?
If you have questions, I'm here, so just raise your hand and I will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, Jenna. Thanks for coming.
Well, just thank you so much. Really great to see the whole things on videos. So
yeah.
Fun. Just a quick question about the future and the AI. And I mean, I think whatever is happening right now, that like I wish AI would like make the laundry, but it does art for me now, and I don't have time for the art, and I have to do the laundry. So whatever is happening right now with AI, what is your intake? Is there anything promising? Can there be some interesting physicality coming out of it? And yeah, what's your intake?
Oh, to AI, yeah.
Yeah, like the AI doing art for us and writing poetry, and you know, like.
I heard a really good quote about that. It's like AI now like makes your art, does your writing. Somebody was like, why can't AI do my dishes and do my laundry and let me do the art?
Exactly.
Because I mean, you know, people make AI and code do things that they do maybe just because they want to see if they can actually do it. There's not really a bigger reason behind that, and also it's a little bit of laziness if you use AI to do your art, but it's also an amalgam of every art ever made, right? Which means it's stealing art, right? So it's like, who knows? Like this is an interesting story. I got a message the other day from a student who's interested in doing a master's program. I don't teach in a master's program, but she said she found my name because she asked the question to ChatGPT about interactive art master's programs, and it gave me her the answer with me, and I was like, I'm now in ChatGPT. That's not cool. But I know it's been like data mining my art, right? So I'm sure that if somebody asked a question, or told DALL-E to draw a picture of something that with networked art, there could be a reference to something that I've done. But it's like, I think it's good to have it there for sure, but it's it's just how you use it. I mean, every tool has a negative side, so it's just a matter of what you do with it. Yeah.
But do you see some physicalities? Like I remember in Montreal right now there is a startup that is teaching robot arm to paint with acrylic paints.
Yeah.
And they still use the female pad for drying the brush because they don't have a better technology, but they have like this super expensive robot arm that does go into the paint and represent like the physicality of the art itself. And I'm just like curious about like implications, and there is the critical side of it, which is like stealing art, but also is there anything interesting that might happen, or are you mostly critical about this?
Maybe the cool thing is that you could live on past your physical body in some way, right? You can like still make art after you pass away if you have an AI that does it. I mean, there was something at SIGGRAPH this summer where I was a labs chair of SIGGRAPH. It's a big computer graphics conference. They had an Albert Einstein like on a screen where you could ask it questions, and it was using AI history of Albert Einstein to actually give you answers that he would probably know how to answer. And maybe even ones he never even thought of. You could ask Albert Einstein about the future of AI, maybe, and he would answer it in an Einstein way. So I mean, maybe that's kind of cool. You could live on past your lifetime. I mean, that's kind of what social media does as well, and I teach a lot about that too. It's like we have these systems now built in that extend our lives beyond our body, whether we like it or not. There's like about 1 million or so accounts on Facebook of people that passed away that will never be deleted. Right? And so it's kind of like gravestones. They're like digital gravestones that are just there, whether you like it or not, and they can't be erased unless someone wipes the servers. So that could be the future of AI. But instead of it just being ended, it could actually still make stuff, with our ideas. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. If you have a question, Mike. You can keep adding stuff to this, although it's kind of crashing a little bit. Yeah.
So it seems a driving force is a particular kind of humor
of
what you're doing in terms of hacking stuff, and reversing. So when you teach your students, does that play a role in your interactions? And also, you need to actually do some programming and also physical design things here. The students of yours in media and journalism, do they learn these kind of things in your courses?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our department is really more centered around theory than practice. The art department is definitely more on the practice side, but we do have a few media classes. So I've taught a few of those before. Yeah, so they do build things, mainly software. I've had a few sections where I've taught them to design apps, and they've done that. So they actually do create things. Yeah, so it just depends on which class, But I definitely try to stay critical. I saw this amazing quote. I think it was in Wired. Yeah, I was reading Wired on the plane ride here. There was a quote by one of the authors that said, pretty soon AI is going to create a word processor app, right? There'll be a word processor app with AI that won't let you save if there's grammatical problems in your essay. So it's like what? That's going to happen in the education. It's like suddenly you're not going to be able to like save your own work if you're not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like E.E. Cummings like gone down a hill. I was like, we're gonna start seeing rules placed on everything now, you know, not only saving things, but like kind of crazy stuff. Yeah.
Hi. So I wanted to ask. It felt to me like there was a tension between the material making, like the controllers, and some of the other work where, for me, like, it felt a little bit like intensifying the despair or materializing the futility.
Okay.
And I guess I just wonder, I know that the point of what we're doing isn't to sort of mechanically be like, you see this piece of art and then you go out and you do this particular thing.
Right.
But I wondered in your own practice if you could just talk about if there is a difference between the carbon dioxide maker and the controller maker.
Right. Oh, okay. I don't know about like a different, but it's just pointing out things that are, you know, kind of don't make sense in the first place. I mean, there was a study done where like the trucks that take away the trash cause more pollution than the trash or something. There's like things like that where it's sort of like, why are we doing these things to kind of like disrupt its own well-being? I don't know. For me, it's just I like looking at those relationships and kind of just playing around with them a bit, you know, to try to provoke relationships. But yeah, I mean, it's not always easy, especially in art, to make things that people like, people that are like, make people happy too. I mean, that's part of the point. It's like you have to be critical enough that you're not gonna like cause a fight, but you're gonna like, you know, point out these tensions, you know, with things that we're doing, and those projects to the planet and also just to each other and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I've had some battles in the past with people that were like upset about some of the projects, not bad ones, but just, you know, in general, like they were kind of like, okay, why are you doing this? Because you know, you can prove a point, but it's not only about proving a point, it's just like kind of making you look different. That's what artists do that I like the most. They just make you look at a different angle of the same argument, but just totally different. So yeah, I don't know if that answered it, but yeah. Oh yeah, Alex.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, so just along that point, again, you know, I was just thinking about how much all your works have a real sense of nostalgia to them.
Okay.
And so there's a real, I think there's a value to the way that you've designed your aesthetics. But it's also tough, right, to think about an issue that is ongoing in that framework. So maybe that's the tension right there that you were talking about, ma'am. That is interesting. I mean, I'm looking at it from a software perspective and thinking, how does your projects, for instance, the ones on Twitter, how do they age, especially through the different like public-facing, you know, personas that Twitter has and is involved with right now?
I kind of don't want to go near Twitter anymore because of Elon Musk, you know. That kind of ruined it for me. You know, suddenly it's like Twitter, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, it's like all one big like cluster. I don't know. So I'm not interested in really playing with it all, but I agree. Yeah, I mean, at the time, it was just, Twitter was just like an open,
it's such
platform.
A shame. It was such a fantastic pedagogical tool.
Yeah,
as well, right?
yeah, and suddenly now it's like imbued with all these like negative ideologies because of that. And so yeah, it's hard to even use it anymore. I don't even look at it anymore, honestly, because of that. So you know, so I like things that are more open for sure, that you can like manipulate and play around with. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Oh, yeah, so slow.
Your portfolio of projects is very, very impressive.
Thanks.
Specifically, I have a question related to contact rot.
Yeah.
And if you're planning to do any more with that or with the concepts about it, including reversing it and making where user interface, the more you use, you know, the more you click on something, it moves to a higher order in the list, or becomes bigger or bolder, different color, those kind of things.
But that's kind of how a social feed works, I guess, too. The more clicks it gets, it rises to the top. Yeah, you could do that with contact rod, whereas like contact attention or something like the other way around. But then you might get really bored with always seeing the same person all the time, and it wouldn't give you as many options. I mean, maybe something more random where it would just be like a new contact pops up every day, like almost like a daily affirmation. It's like, you haven't contacted this person in like 6 months. What are they doing right now? That could actually be useful to people. And yeah, you can play around with that for sure.
When you have so many irons in the fire,
Yeah.
like roughly,
Yeah.
you know, how many projects do you work on at
Yeah.
the same time? You have a handful or 10 or, and that list must change over time.
Yeah. No, it changes a lot. And when I get inspired on like a theme, like the human error stuff, I can kind of like crank out many at a time super fast. As you can see by those, there are like 15 projects in that series. I didn't even talk about all of them because there's too many. But it just like, when I get on a theme that it totally inspires me, I'll just, keep riffing off of it for sure. And even Bumplist, that inspired another project where we wanted to make a system. I made that with another computer scientist when I was working at the Media Lab in Ireland, and then he's like, we were talking about building a system where you could create your own bump list, for instance, like an authoring system where I wanted to like go on and make a list that only supports 20 people or maybe 1,000 people or maybe like one person, and that would be really cool to like build those systems that are more open for people to play around with. Yeah, so there's a lot of projects that never got built, but definitely in the pipeline for future, hopefully. Yeah. Wow, one more? Are you good?
Maybe I can ask a question. Oh.
Yeah.
No. If I have time, I'll ask a question at the end.
Thanks for contributing all these.
So you just mentioned a media lab in Dublin.
Yeah. I worked at.
Do you have your own lab also, or what is do you work with a kind of networked lab ecology?
A little bit. I mean, no, the Media Lab. So in the early 2000s, the MIT Media Lab in Boston were expanding, and they built a lab in Dublin. So I got hired there as a fellow. I was there for about 4 years in Dublin, working in an old Guinness factory, because everything in Dublin is in a Guinness factory. And we were like building the future of beer. No, we were just like, we were working on connectivity projects. And that was a really good experience, but then they ran out of money in like 2005, I think, and shut down. But as far as like a media lab myself, I don't have my own media lab, but I definitely work with different collaborators over the years. And if I need help on a project, I know who to talk to about that stuff. So, yeah, pretty open. Yeah, but that was a good experience. Yeah. Oh, more? Yeah, no, good. Cool.
Maybe I can ask my question.
Yeah,
then.
sure.
But it's not really a question. It's just like a few considerations. When we agreed that Jonah would come and do the workshop at the college, I was tasked to find junk, like junky
yeah, because the workshop's about junk, returning junk.
But the thing that I realized while collecting, actually I should have tasked my students to do it, because one thing that really is alarming is that if you go to the thrift shop, you find stuff that is almost new. People throw away anything. And then I was mentioning to Jonah that I was coming back from my other job, and I had to cross like a shishi neighborhood, and there was like a fully functional record player on the lawn, which I picked up, and it works perfectly well. So we're supposed to take apart those and to create new, and to create controllers, and it kind of pained me that we had to do this. But this really makes me realize of like the whole, so what you are engaging is something that is much bigger than just a little project or just a little activity. And I'm wondering if you if you want to maybe, like if you've thought about expanding this to like, oh, so we are going all together and try and find junk together, and then we come back and we do like some workshop on what we found and like what is happening to this stuff before and after. Because the other thing is that I'm gonna have to go back, and so in a few weeks from now, we are going to visit Quantum, which is one of the places where they dispose of electronics here in North York.
Okay.
And we're gonna take the remnants of the workshop because there is some stuff, right? So like what, do you have any thought about it? Because I was thinking about, okay, the problem is much bigger, and I think that your workshop is really has immense potentials beyond the little workshop, right? So. Yeah, that happened. So I did the workshop in 2011 at Banff. You guys know the Banff Center in Alberta. We went there with like 20 artists, and we just looked at junkyards in Banff. It's a beautiful place. You go to see the mountains, but we went to the junkyard. We went there and we found trash. Everyone's sifting through junk. We were like through some pretty dangerous stuff. We brought it all back and we built stuff at Banff and then installed it all over the city or the town. And so that's an example. And we've done that before with all those workshops. We usually go out with the artists and to the places to get it. Yeah. There's some places, we went to Peru and we did there. There's no junk because everything is reused. But in New York, you can find like anything like that, a record player on the street, printers, everywhere you look, they're all over the street. But in some countries, they just reuse everything so well. It was really hard to find them. Yeah, in Asia, it was super hard to find junk. In South America, so yeah. So it is interesting to see the difference. Yeah. Also from country to country, what people are using. Yeah. No, where does our junk in, junk out, and is our junk really junk? Yeah, no, true. Yeah, most of it isn't. Right. Yeah, it's all reusable for sure. Yeah. Anybody else wants to take a peek? Any other considerations? Yeah. Jenna, yeah. Nice.
I mean, just a small idea for the Bumplist, but for a to-do list. Yeah. That would be so great. And that that bumps out your to-dos? Exactly. Yeah, what you don't do. Anyway. So you never get anything done. Yeah, exactly. I like that, actually. Thank you so much. Yeah. Or who you're gonna call. No, it's like Contact Rod meets Bumplist. It start bumping out the people you don't contact. Well, yeah, sort of like that. But there's also that artist I was talking about, Ben Grosser. He made a project. He made his own social network after making all these Facebook projects that mess with Facebook. It's called Minus, and I remember mentioning it. And it only allows you to post 200 times, and after that you get booted off the network. So you can only you have a limited number of posts a lifetime, which I really like, because he wanted to make a social network that gives us less, not more. Right, which is this concept. So you should try it. It's hard. I didn't stay on it that long. But to stay on it, you just can't be social, basically, which is kind of funny. Yeah. Well, I would say that this is a very good deterrent for trolls. Oh. The 200 posts. Oh, yeah, totally. You got to think twice before becoming a troll. Yeah. Anybody else wants to say the last few words? Yes. Last few words. They can be also more. It's not it's just that Yeah. People need a little bit of nudging. We still have 15 minutes. Oh, we have time. Yeah.
Well, I think I wanted to circle back to the title of your talk, which is on disrupted
critical networks.
Critical networks.
Because it's not only about networks, but it's about maybe critical interfaces.
Well, and this is because I was thinking about telexistence spaces and world design, but your focus on your interactions really embodied in terms of how people are experiencing it, and rather at a disembodied experience. And I wanted maybe to ask you, maybe talk a bit about more how you use satire and humor in your work as this kind of criticality of a really serious subject matter, as a way of people having this embodied experience through humor, maybe.
Well, I think people relate to humor more than anything. I mean, as soon as you can laugh about something, suddenly it becomes more human to you. It breaks down barriers. So as far as entry into an idea, if you can make it humorous, suddenly you have an audience immediately. And some of the best comedians obviously do that. just because they break in with like one sentence and suddenly the crowd is theirs, like it listens to them, it can relate to them. So it's about making things relatable ultimately. And that's also like the police cars project I showed you. We relate to physical things because we are physical, right? You're talking about your students who are like looking at screens all day long in class, and then suddenly they took my workshop and they're like finally working with their hands. But like, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make that with the cars, because it's a physical object. People see a physical object moving around. Suddenly it's like them. They can relate to it, and suddenly that idea becomes much stronger in their brains as far as how it connects. So I try to do that as much as possible with the work. That's also the drill, for instance, is a physical thing, the crank, all these things like that. When you look at some of like the nuts and bolts of a lot of these projects, like the tech behind them is actually not that complicated, especially the hardware, the electronic stuff. It's really just about bringing a larger idea on top of a really simple piece of tech that you can connect. And so it works that way pretty well. Yeah. All right, thank you guys.
I think,
oh, we're done? Oh, Nina has one more statement.
I just want to say a personal thank you. It's an old wish to come true. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming. Yeah. And this is amazing what you guys have done here. The end of data. I was like, it is the end of data. Recognizing sarcasm as AI Turing.
If anybody knows how to reuse and fix an Alexa, one of the things that my students brought was Amazon Echo that doesn't work. It's at the library right now. Like I'm sure I can retrieve it because nobody's gonna touch it. It's like this thing that is sitting on the balcony, so nobody's gonna touch it.
That's the Zoom. That's the Zoom link.
And if anybody wants a turntable. Like, it's kind of plasticky, but I found it on the lawn.
A turntable, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a record player, but yeah.
You can see, oh, it's not working anymore with that, but I was like, I get rid of that. The Zoom. Wait.
Is it still working?
No, the Zoom is, no, it's okay. The Zoom is still going, but I was just wanted to show that how fast the words go when you take the Zoom. Oh, that's you guys, never. Oh, it's not going to work because it's not connected. That's what you guys look like from behind. Anyway.
Probably alpha second.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
All right.
Should do that.
Yeah.
So by the way, if you want to go back to
Thank you guys for
this or your friends missed this, we recorded everything.
Also, I brought some stickers, and if you guys want stickers of some of my projects, human error and weapon of protest, let me know. I have stickers here, so I can give you guys.
Yes.
Stickers.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, they're good laptop stickers and stuff.
I want some. I need one for my laptop.
Here.
Oh my God.
It's big.
No, I have to go to Dallas in a couple of weeks, no? This one.
Yeah, if you guys want some stickers.
Oh my God. Yeah, this is.
Hey, stickers. So they're weapon of protest, they're pretty big, and they're human error. Thanks.